Alex stepped off the shuttle onto the red dust of Nova Terra, a new human colony far from Earth. The sky had a soft pink hue, and the two suns cast long shadows over the rising settlements. He carried only a small backpack and a data pad, his mind full of plans. He had been chosen as one of the first settlers because of his knowledge of law and architecture. Unlike most colonists, Alex preferred freedom. He wanted a home of his own design, not one shaped by committees or rules made by others. The colony was organized by the homeowners' authority, known as the HOA. They claimed to protect the settlements and ensure harmony. But Alex had studied the laws carefully. He knew the difference between protection and control. The settlements were meant to be a guide, not a prison. He chose a plot slightly away from the main settlement, a flat area with a view of the distant hills. It was quiet, untouched, and perfect for building. Using his portable construction kit, Alex began shaping the foundation of his house. He worked carefully, making a design that combined strength, comfort, and energy efficiency. He installed solar panels, water collectors, and a small garden. Every step was guided by the colony's regulations, which he knew by heart. Alex smiled to himself. He was following the law better than most settlers, but he was also creating a home completely his own. The first few days were peaceful. Alex enjoyed the silence of his surroundings, listening to the wind and the soft hum of distant machinery. He watched as small delivery drones brought supplies to other settlers and observed the HOA inspectors walking the main paths. Alex had no interest in confrontation. He simply wanted to live freely and respect the law. Then the first message arrived. It was short and formal. Notice of required HOA membership. Non-compliance may result in penalties. Alex read it carefully. He tapped on his datapad and pulled up the legal codes. According to the rules, membership was voluntary for those living outside the main settlement. Alex wrote a polite reply, citing the exact law and sending a scanned copy of his property plans. He expected the matter to end there. The next morning, an inspector appeared. She introduced herself as Mara and carried a tablet with colony records. Her expression was strict, but Alex greeted her politely. "I am here to check your property for compliance," Mara said. Alex led her around the house, explaining every detail. "All of this follows the colony laws. I have installed safety systems, water management, and energy efficiency as required," he said calmly. Mara scanned the tablets and looked around. She frowned but did not argue. "Very thorough," she said after a while. "But you still need to consider HOA membership. It is for your safety and community support." Alex shook his head. "I respect the community, but membership is not mandatory. My house complies with all laws. I cannot join something that forces me to give up my independence." Mara paused. "I will report this. The council may contact you." Alex nodded politely. He watched as she left, drones following her back to the settlement. That night, he reviewed all communications and security footage. He had learned long ago that knowledge and calm action were stronger than anger. He documented everything carefully, just in case. Over the next few days, Alex noticed small changes. Delivery drones slowed near his property, and a maintenance robot hesitated at his gate. He found footprints near the garden, but no one was present. Alex did not panic. He strengthened his security systems and kept careful records. Every step he took was legal, smart, and careful. Despite the minor annoyances, Alex enjoyed his home. He grew vegetables, listened to music from Earth, and watched the twin suns set. Nova Terra was a new world, full of challenges and opportunities. He understood that the freedom he sought would not be given without effort, but he was ready. As he sat on the porch one evening, looking at the distant hills glowing pink, Alex thought about the coming days. The HOA might try to pressure him, but he was prepared. He had the law, the technology, and the calm mind needed to face any challenge. For now, his home was safe, his mind clear, and the stars above promised a future full of possibility. Alex smiled. He had built more than a house. He had built a sanctuary where law, reason, and freedom lived together. And he knew the real test had only just begun. The morning light on Nova Terra was soft and pink, but Alex felt an unusual tension in the air. Overnight, something had changed. The small maintenance drones he usually saw near his property were gone, and the usual hum of settlement activity seemed distant. He walked around his house and noticed a few small disruptions. The water collector had been slightly moved, and a cable leading to the energy unit was loose. Nothing dangerous, but clearly intentional. Alex knelt and examined the damage. He took pictures and uploaded them to his datapad. Careful documentation is the first defense, he whispered to himself. He remembered how humans on Earth had faced similar challenges. Knowledge and proof were stronger than anger or force. Later, a message arrived from the HOA. It was direct this time. Failure to join the HOA is noted. You are now in violation of community safety policies. Immediate compliance is required. Alex frowned. The language was aggressive. He checked the law again. According to the colony's statutes, membership was still voluntary for homes outside the main settlement. He drafted a calm, polite reply, citing the law and documenting the HOA's actions. He sent it immediately. The next day, a small group of inspectors arrived at his property. This time, more than one person came. Alex welcomed them calmly. "Good morning," Alex said. "I assume you are here for the routine inspection." "Yes," said the lead inspector, a tall woman named Kira. "We need to verify that your property is safe and meets the standards of the settlement." Alex guided them through the house. Every panel, every system, and every structure was shown and explained. "All systems are fully operational and comply with all laws," Alex said. "I have documented everything for the council." Kira examined the house, her expression unreadable. "It is well built," she admitted. "But refusal to join the HOA is not acceptable. It is for your safety and the harmony of the community." Alex shook his head politely. "I respect the community, but I am following the law. Membership is voluntary for my area. My house meets all safety requirements. I cannot join without giving up legal rights that protect my freedom." Kira frowned but left without further argument. Alex watched her go. He noticed a small drone hovering nearby, probably recording the interaction. He smiled slightly. "I expected observation," he said. "It only makes my documentation stronger." Over the next few days, Alex began noticing more subtle disruptions. Small tools were misplaced, energy readings fluctuated, and a few of his plants were knocked over. It was clear someone had been near his property, but no one was caught in the act. Instead of panicking, Alex increased security measures. He set up motion sensors, automated cameras, and alerts. Every action was legal, every system within colony rules. Alex also began analyzing the disturbances. Patterns emerged. The disruptions happened mostly when inspectors or drones were nearby, suggesting coordination. Alex decided to gather evidence quietly. He stayed attentive, recorded every movement, and cross-checked timestamps with his security logs. By evening, he had a clear picture. Someone was testing boundaries, trying to provoke him into breaking a law. But Alex stayed calm. He knew that patience and evidence were his strongest weapons. One night, while reviewing security footage, Alex noticed a shadow moving near the perimeter of his property. The figure was careful, almost invisible, but the cameras captured it. Alex enhanced the video and saw that it was a small robot, probably controlled remotely. He traced its signal to a nearby area within the main settlement. The HOA was clearly involved. The next morning, Alex sent a report to the Inter-Colony Council. He explained the situation, attached the evidence, and requested advice. He knew the council would act carefully. Nova Terra laws required due process, and the council would want clear proof. Despite the tension, Alex continued his daily routines. He tended his garden, checked his energy systems, and watched the twin suns rise and set. He understood that the struggle with the HOA would not end quickly. But he also knew that his calm mind and careful planning gave him an advantage. He did not need to react angrily. He only needed to be smart and patient. By the end of the week, Alex had completed a full record of all HOA interactions, disturbances, and unauthorized inspections. He stored the data securely and backed it up on several independent systems. He was ready for whatever came next. As he sat on his porch in the evening, watching the pink sky, Alex felt a quiet determination. The HOA may try to pressure him, but he had knowledge, technology, and the law on his side. Nova Terra was a new world, and freedom required vigilance. Alex was prepared to defend both his home and his rights, without breaking a single law. He looked toward the distant hills and whispered, "This is just the beginning." Alex woke to a strange smell in the air. It was faint at first, but quickly grew stronger. He rushed outside and saw smoke curling from his house. His heart raced, but his mind stayed sharp. He grabbed his data pad and activated the emergency systems. Fire suppression drones emerged from hidden stations around the property, spraying foam and water. The flames were already spreading quickly. Alex ran toward the house, directing the drones with precise commands. Contain the fire on the east wall. Protect the solar panels. Do not let the garden catch fire, he said calmly. The drones responded immediately, creating barriers and cutting off the flames. Still, the fire was strong, fueled by something heavier than normal. Alex watched as the smoke thickened and realized this was no accident. The pattern of the fire, the timing, and the speed all pointed to deliberate sabotage. Someone had targeted his home with the intent to destroy it. He activated his internal sensors to detect heat sources and found that multiple ignition points had been used. This was a coordinated attack. He immediately contacted the local emergency response team. Drones arrived within minutes to assist, but the fire had already damaged the central control hub of his house. Alex stayed calm and coordinated the response, ensuring that the fire did not spread to nearby settlements. He documented every moment with his data pad, knowing that this evidence would be crucial later. Once the fire was under control, Alex walked through the remains of his home. Smoke filled the air, and the smell of scorched materials was strong. The structure was badly damaged, and many of his personal items were lost. Yet, Alex did not panic. He examined the scene carefully, taking detailed notes. The patterns matched the disturbances he had noticed before, confirming that the HOA had gone beyond legal boundaries. Alex found traces of tampering in the energy systems. Someone had disabled the fire suppression in certain areas and used chemical accelerants in others. He recorded the data and sent copies to secure cloud storage outside the settlement. He also sent a preliminary report to the Inter-Colony Council, explaining the situation and providing initial evidence. Despite the destruction, Alex's mind remained focused. He began reconstructing a plan. First, he needed to ensure the safety of his remaining equipment and data. He moved critical systems to a secure, shielded area away from the damaged house. Then he began designing new security measures. The fire had shown that standard protections were not enough. He upgraded his sensors, added remote monitoring, and installed emergency energy backups. Alex also reached out to other colonists. Some had quietly observed the HOA's behavior and were sympathetic to his situation. They offered assistance, helping to recover what could be salvaged and providing witness statements. Alex realized that the community, though influenced by the HOA, was not entirely controlled. People could be allies if approached carefully. As he worked through the day, Alex thought about the law. The HOA had clearly violated Nova Terra statutes protecting personal property and safety. The council would have to act, but he needed irrefutable proof. He reviewed the security footage from the night of the fire and noticed small drones in patterns that matched those of the HOA inspections. He enhanced the images and verified digital signatures linking the devices to the HOA network. By evening, Alex had compiled a detailed record. Every ignition point, every tampered system, and every suspicious drone was documented. He prepared a formal submission to the Inter-Colony Council. His tone was calm and professional, outlining the facts and laws that had been broken. He knew that anger could undermine his case, but methodical action would make it strong. Even with the fire and destruction, Alex did not feel defeated. He stood on the hill near his property, looking at the sunset over the hills of Nova Terra. The sky glowed pink and orange, and the twin suns cast long shadows over the charred remains of his home. Alex felt determination rising inside him. He understood that this attack was a test of courage and intelligence. The HOA had assumed fear would drive him into submission, but Alex relied on knowledge, preparation, and law. He whispered to himself, "They may destroy my house, but they cannot destroy my mind or my rights." Alex began planning the next steps. He would rebuild, but he would also ensure that the HOA could not harm him or others again. He would gather evidence, strengthen alliances, and prepare a legal response that could not be ignored. The fire had been a setback, but it had also revealed the full extent of the HOA's misconduct. As the stars appeared in the pink sky, Alex felt a quiet confidence. Nova Terra was a new world, and he was ready to face its challenges. Freedom required vigilance, courage, and intelligence. He had all three, and he would use them to protect his home, his rights, and the colony itself. The morning after the fire, Alex walked carefully through the charred remains of his home. The air smelled of smoke and melted metal, and the ground was littered with broken panels and scorched equipment. Yet Alex's mind was calm. He had survived the attack, and he now had proof that the HOA had gone too far. Alex activated his portable analysis tools. He scanned every inch of the property, searching for any clue left behind by the saboteurs. Tiny residues of chemical accelerants, traces of tampered wiring, and digital footprints on the small drones that had moved around the property all pointed to a single source. The HOA had coordinated this attack, and they had tried to erase evidence. He carefully documented everything. Each finding was photographed, time-stamped, and backed up on multiple secure cloud servers. Alex understood that the council would require clear, irrefutable proof before taking action. He also knew that the HOA might continue its harassment if they sensed weakness. Patience and precision were essential. Alex began reviewing his security footage from the previous week. He noticed patterns he had not seen before. Small drones had moved in precise paths, hovering near energy lines and water collectors. Each movement coincided with moments when HOA inspectors had visited or sent messages. It was a calculated test of his property's defenses. The fire had been their final step in this experiment. While reviewing the footage, Alex discovered another clue. A series of encrypted signals appeared, originating from the settlement hub. They corresponded to the HOA's administrative drones. He decrypted the signals and found command codes that triggered certain malfunctions in his systems. This was undeniable proof of direct HOA involvement. Alex knew that public opinion could be a powerful ally. He discreetly contacted other colonists who had observed suspicious behavior from the HOA. Some were hesitant at first, afraid of retaliation, but Alex reassured them that the law and council would protect those who spoke the truth. Slowly, a network of witnesses began to form. They provided statements and additional observations about the HOA's overreach. He then turned his attention to the legal side. Alex drafted a formal complaint to the Inter-Colony Council. His submission was thorough and precise. He listed every violation, from unauthorized surveillance to property sabotage. Each point was backed by timestamps, footage, and chemical analysis. Alex wrote clearly and calmly, avoiding emotion. He understood that the council valued facts above anger. While preparing the submission, Alex also improved his defenses. He installed additional drones, reinforced structures with fire-resistant materials, and upgraded his monitoring systems. This was not just about protecting his property, it was about ensuring that the HOA could not disrupt his life while the investigation was ongoing. By midweek, Alex had completed a full report. He reviewed it carefully, checking every detail for accuracy. The evidence was strong. The HOA had broken multiple Nova Terra statutes, endangered lives, and attempted to destroy property. There was no way the council could ignore this. Alex then scheduled a secure transmission to the council. The report was sent in encrypted packets, ensuring that only authorized officials could access the information. He included all witness statements, enhanced drone footage, chemical analysis results, and logs of the HOA's attempts to pressure him. After sending the submission, Alex felt a sense of quiet confidence. The council had a complete record of the HOA's illegal actions. The next steps would be theirs, but Alex remained prepared. He spent the evening surveying the settlement from his hilltop, noting the routines of the inspectors and drones. He was calm, observant, and ready for any further attempts at harassment. As the twin suns began to set, casting the red dust of Nova Terra in golden light, Alex reflected on the events. The fire had been a harsh test, but it had also revealed the true nature of the HOA. They were willing to break the law to control others, and that knowledge would give him strength. Alex understood that freedom required vigilance, patience, and intelligence. He thought about the colonists who had quietly supported him. They would be allies when the council reviewed the case. Their statements could make the difference between victory and continued oppression. Alex made a mental note to maintain these connections and continue building trust within the community. Finally, he returned to his temporary shelter. The day had been long, but productive. Alex knew that the council would respond, but he also knew that he could not wait passively. He reviewed his security measures, prepared backups, and ensured that his property was as safe as possible. Each step was deliberate and lawful. As night fell over Nova Terra, the stars sparkled above the pink and orange horizon. Alex looked at the sky and smiled. He had survived the fire, gathered strong evidence, and built a foundation for justice. The HOA had acted illegally, and soon the council would see the truth. Freedom on Nova Terra was not given lightly, but Alex was ready to defend it. Alex spent the morning reviewing his submission to the Inter-Colony Council. Every detail, every timestamp, and every witness statement had been included. He wanted to ensure that the evidence left no room for doubt. The HOA had broken the law, sabotaged his home, and endangered the colony, and now it was time to let the council act. He received a message from the council later in the day. The communication was formal but promising. They had received his report and scheduled a preliminary review. Alex knew this was an important step. The council would examine the evidence carefully before taking any action, and he needed to be ready for questions, challenges, or attempts to delay justice. Alex decided to continue improving his defenses. He upgraded his surveillance systems, set up additional perimeter sensors, and activated automated drones to patrol his property. He also created a secure communication channel for his network of allies in the colony. Any future attempts by the HOA could be documented immediately. While reinforcing his property, Alex reflected on the strategy he would use. This was not a battle of force, but a battle of law, evidence, and logic. The HOA might try to intimidate him further, but he would remain calm, presenting facts without emotion. He knew that reason and preparation were stronger than anger or fear. The next morning, a small delegation from the council arrived. They were led by an official named Taryn, a serious but fair-minded woman who had experience in inter-colony disputes. Alex greeted her politely and led the delegation to a temporary observation point overlooking his property. "We are here to review the case," Taryn said. We will need to see the evidence and understand the situation fully. Alex began by showing the security footage from the past weeks. He demonstrated the movements of the HOA drones, the timing of inspections, and the tampering with his systems. He also presented the chemical analysis of the accelerants used in the fire and the digital signatures linking the HOA to the sabotage. Taryn and her team studied the data carefully. Alex remained calm, answering questions clearly and precisely. He explained how the HOA had violated multiple Nova Terra laws and endangered not only his property but also the safety of the surrounding area. The council members nodded as they reviewed the documentation, clearly impressed by the thoroughness and accuracy. Next, Alex introduced the witness statements from other colonists. They described unusual behavior from HOA inspectors, unexplained malfunctions, and instances of intimidation. Alex had collected these accounts carefully, ensuring that each statement was factual and verifiable. The council recorded everything, and Taryn made notes. After reviewing all the evidence, Taryn turned to Alex. "Your case is very strong. The HOA's actions are clearly outside legal boundaries. We will open a formal investigation and take steps to prevent further violations." Alex nodded. "Thank you. I have documented every action they took, including the fire. I want to ensure this does not happen to anyone else." Taryn smiled slightly. "You have prepared well. The council will act quickly. In the meantime, you should continue monitoring your property and maintaining evidence. Any additional incidents will strengthen the case further." Over the following days, Alex focused on observation and preparation. He reviewed his security logs, upgraded defenses, and communicated with the network of colonists who had provided statements. He maintained a calm and disciplined routine, knowing that patience was as important as evidence in ensuring justice. Meanwhile, the HOA began to realize that their actions were being scrutinized. They sent messages demanding compliance, but Alex ignored the threats. He remained polite but firm, refusing to engage emotionally. Each attempt they made was recorded, creating a clear trail of harassment that would support his case. One evening, Alex stood on the hill near his property, watching the twin suns set over Nova Terra. The sky glowed pink and gold, and the wind carried a sense of quiet determination. He thought about the journey so far: the construction of his home, the harassment, the fire, and now the strategic preparation for justice. Each step had been deliberate, each action lawful. Alex realized that the situation had already taught him something important. Strength was not only measured by technology or property but by intelligence, patience, and adherence to law. The HOA had believed they could intimidate him, but their overconfidence had created evidence that could not be ignored. As night fell, Alex reviewed his plans for the next steps. He would continue to document, monitor, and prepare for the council's formal actions. The HOA could not hide from the law, and the network of allies would ensure that no manipulation could go unnoticed. Justice on Nova Terra required diligence, but Alex was ready. He looked up at the stars above the pink horizon and felt a quiet confidence. The council would act, the evidence was strong, and his home and the principles it represented would be defended. Alex knew the HOA would not give up easily, but neither would he. Freedom required vigilance, preparation, and courage. He had all three, and he was ready to face whatever came next. The day of the formal hearing arrived. The Inter-Colony Council had called a public meeting in the Central Settlement Hall, and Alex prepared to attend. He dressed simply and carried only his data pad, which contained every piece of evidence he had collected. The hall was large, with transparent walls showing the red hills of Nova Terra outside, and filled with colonists curious about the case. Alex found a seat near the front and observed the HOA leaders entering. Their expressions were tight, defensive, and slightly nervous. They had not expected the council to act so decisively or to have such thorough evidence. Alex remained calm. He understood that confidence and clarity were stronger than any display of emotion. Taryn, the council official who had reviewed his case, called the hearing to order. We are here to examine the complaint against the homeowner's authority regarding illegal actions taken against a settler on Nova Terra, she said. We will review evidence, witness statements, and hear responses from both parties. The HOA leaders began their statement with polite language, claiming they had acted in the interest of community safety and harmony. Alex listened carefully. He had anticipated these arguments. When it was his turn, he calmly presented the evidence. He started with the security footage showing the HOA drones moving near his property at suspicious times. He explained the tampering with energy systems, the chemical traces from the fire, and the patterns that clearly indicated deliberate sabotage. The council members studied the data carefully, zooming in on timestamps and digital signatures. Next, Alex introduced the witness statements from other colonists. He read them aloud clearly and slowly, ensuring that the council could understand the context and facts. Each statement described intimidation, unauthorized inspections, and interference with personal property. The colonists in the audience nodded, and some quietly whispered their support. Taryn asked questions about the methods Alex used to document the incidents. He explained the drones, sensors, and secure communication channels he had set up. He described his approach to gathering evidence legally, without provoking the HOA, and the council appeared impressed by his thoroughness. When the HOA leaders attempted to argue further, Alex countered calmly, using legal references and citing the statutes he had helped draft for Nova Terra. He explained that membership in the HOA was voluntary for homes outside the main settlement and that the actions against him, including the fire, clearly violated colony laws. As the presentation continued, murmurs spread among the audience. Many colonists had been frustrated by the HOA's strict control but had feared speaking out. Alex's calm, evidence-based approach inspired them. Some stood quietly, showing their support with nods and attentive eyes. The council members took careful notes, clearly impressed by the precision and clarity of his case. After hours of review, Taryn addressed the HOA leaders directly. The evidence presented is substantial. There are clear violations of multiple statutes protecting property, safety, and individual rights. The council must take action to prevent further harm and uphold the law. The HOA leaders attempted one last defense, claiming misunderstanding and procedural errors. Alex remained silent, letting the facts speak for themselves. The council had the documentation, the footage, the witness statements, and the chemical analysis. There was no room for doubt. Finally, Taryn made the council's decision. The homeowner's authority has acted illegally. Effective immediately, their powers over settlements are suspended. The council will oversee repairs, ensure compensation for affected parties, and prevent future abuse. All actions taken by the HOA that violated colony law are nullified. A quiet cheer rose from the colonists in the hall. The HOA leaders looked stunned, realizing that their overreach had been fully exposed. Alex remained calm, but inside he felt a sense of quiet triumph. Justice had been achieved, not through anger or confrontation, but through patience, intelligence, and adherence to the law. After the hearing, colonists approached Alex to offer support and thanks. Some shared stories of minor abuses by the HOA and expressed relief that someone had stood up legally and successfully. Alex listened and smiled politely, reminding them that the strength of the colony lay in law, order, and careful vigilance. Later, Alex returned to his property. The charred remains of his house were still visible, but his mind was already on reconstruction. He planned stronger defenses, better fireproofing, and improved monitoring systems. This was not just rebuilding a house, it was rebuilding security, independence, and a model for lawful living in the colony. As the twin suns of Nova Terra set, casting a warm pink glow over the hills, Alex stood outside his property. He reflected on the events of the past weeks, the harassment, the fire, the evidence collection, and the council's public confrontation with the HOA. Every step had required patience, discipline, and a calm mind. He had defended his rights without breaking any law. Alex understood that Nova Terra was still a young colony, and challenges would continue to arise. But he also knew that intelligence, preparation, and lawful action could overcome even powerful and corrupt authorities. He looked toward the stars and felt a quiet confidence. Freedom on this new world required courage and clarity, and Alex had both. The days after the council's decision were filled with activity. Alex began the process of rebuilding his home. He worked carefully, combining stronger materials with advanced safety systems. Fire-resistant walls, upgraded energy grids, and automated monitoring drones became part of the design. This house would not only be a home but also a symbol of lawful independence on Nova Terra. Other colonists came to help. Some carried supplies, others offered labor or advice. Alex welcomed the assistance and directed the work with precision. Every system, every structure was checked against colony regulations. Nothing was left to chance. The collaboration created a sense of community, one built on respect, law, and shared purpose rather than fear. Alex also continued to strengthen security. He installed perimeter drones with recording capabilities, energy shields for critical systems, and emergency communication links to the council. The HOA had been neutralized, but Alex understood that vigilance was essential. Freedom required preparation, and he intended to ensure that no one could challenge his rights again. As the house slowly took shape, Alex reflected on what had happened. The HOA had assumed power would intimidate him. They had tried to manipulate systems, harass him, and even destroy his property. But each step had been countered with careful observation, evidence collection, and lawful action. Patience, intelligence, and adherence to rules had turned the situation in his favor. Colonists began to approach Alex with questions. They wanted to know how he had gathered evidence, how he had maintained calm under pressure, and how he had presented the case to the council. Alex shared his approach openly. Observe carefully, record everything, and act with law and logic, he explained. Anger or fear only weakens judgment. The law protects those who respect it. Through these interactions, Alex realized that his experience could serve as a model for the colony. Other settlers were often intimidated by the HOA or unsure of their rights. By teaching calm, lawful resistance and careful documentation, Alex could help ensure that freedom and fairness were protected across Nova Terra. The rebuilding of his house progressed quickly. Each day, Alex checked the structural integrity, energy systems, and safety protocols. The solar arrays were expanded to provide extra power, water collection units were reinforced, and the garden was replanted with stronger, hardy crops. Every element of the home reflected foresight and care. At night, Alex would sit outside, watching the twin suns set over the pink hills. The sky glowed softly, and the air was calm. He felt a quiet satisfaction. Not only had he rebuilt his home, but he had also upheld the principles he valued: law, freedom, and reason. The HOA's defeat had shown that intelligence and preparation could overcome even those who abused authority. As the settlement began to recognize his efforts, Alex was invited to speak to groups of colonists about their rights and the proper use of law. He emphasized careful observation, clear documentation, and patient strategy. His message was simple: knowledge and lawful action are stronger than threats or intimidation. The colonists listened attentively, inspired by his calm confidence and experience. Weeks later, the rebuilt house was complete. It was stronger, safer, and more advanced than before. Alex stood at the entrance, looking over the property and the distant hills. He reflected on the journey, moving to Nova Terra, the first HOA warnings, the subtle sabotage, the fire, the evidence collection, and finally, the council's public decision. Each challenge had required careful thought and steady action. Alex understood that his victory was not only personal. It was a lesson for the entire colony. The law could protect those who respected it, and freedom could be defended without violence. His home was more than a building; it was a statement that knowledge, preparation, and lawful courage could prevail against corruption. As he watched the stars appear in the Nova Terra sky, Alex felt a sense of quiet pride. The colony had learned that justice could be achieved through intelligence, patience, and evidence. The HOA's power was gone, and the settlers now had a clear example of lawful independence. Alex turned toward the garden, checking the water systems and energy panels one last time for the day. He smiled. The work was done, but the lessons would continue. Freedom required vigilance, reason, and courage, and Alex had shown that these qualities could protect not only one home but an entire community. Nova Terra was still a young colony, with challenges ahead, but Alex knew that with intelligence, careful planning, and respect for law, the settlers could face anything. He felt calm, confident, and ready for the future. His home stood as a symbol of lawful strength, his actions had inspired the colony, and the skies above promised a new era of freedom and fairness for all.